I'm Pastor Steve Talmage at Love of Christ Lutheran Church in Mesa, Arizona. Each week, Pastor Nanette Christofferson or I try to provide a brief introduction to two of the assigned Bible readings. We're going to look at our first lesson from Ecclesiastes for Sunday, August 3rd, verses August 3rd, 2025. Background on Ecclesiastes, one of the latest books included in the Jewish Bible, maybe 300 or 400 years before the birth of Christ. It's part of what the Jewish scholars would call their wisdom tradition or the writings. It's told from the perspective of an old king or wise person. The Hebrew title of the author is Koheleth, which means wise one, teacher, or elder. Tradition often places Solomon as the author, but he lived 300 or 400 years before this was included. So we look at it as just being a wise person recording these truths for future generations. It's a story of one person's experience reflecting over a long life. And one of the key insights is striving after riches, pleasure, success, and even wisdom is like chasing after the wind. Such striving brings frustration rather than fulfillment and meaning. And you want to reflect on these words because they're applicable 2,500 years later. Advice and reflections repeats, all is vanity and chasing after the wind and nothing new under the sun. Eat, drink, and find enjoyment in all the toil. Two poems here are most referenced in the book of Ecclesiastes. The first is There's a Season for Everything, which a pop hit in the 60s by the Byrds, hit #1 using the words of Ecclesiastes for that song. What It Feels Like to Grow Old is a wonderful parable in chapter 12 of Ecclesiastes. I encourage you to read that as you see the stages of life. This is, again, an older person remembering the life that they've lived, looking backwards, and as is said often, life, much of life as we live it, is chasing after the wind. And there's nothing new under the sun because these words are as timely today as they were centuries ago. The context of this story is the Jewish community reads this during the festival of Pus or Tabernacles or Sukkoth. This festival comes in the fall, so October 6th through October 13th this year. It's a time when the Jewish people in the wilderness gather together and they celebrated God's provision of manna, of meat, of the covenant, the Sinai covenant, 10 commandments, of God being present with them in this wilderness, preparing them for the promised land. It celebrates God's care and the joy that can be found in life, even life that is fragile and unpredictable. What's the message again? Becoming very rich, very smart, or having fun all the time does not lead to a meaningful life. The emphasis is living separate from God and doing your own thing and chasing after all the things you want to chase after. It's not going to lead to a meaningful life if God is not included and integrated and a part of this. We are all going to die, so no one is finally better than anyone else. The richest person on the planet, the poorest person on the planet is eventually going to die. We cannot know what God has in store for the future, and this is very frustrating when we want to make plans. And boy, how do we like to make our plans. The world is not fair. The good do not always get rewarded, and the bad do not always get punished. We should all find times to enjoy the work and life God has given us. This is a call to work-life balance. This is a call that, we figure out, hopefully at a younger age, that there is more to life than just amassing, accumulating, insulating ourselves from the realities of the world. We need to live our life in a way that can be, prosperous. It can be getting very educated. It can be having fun some of the time, but the reality is it needs to be lived in balance with how we live in community with each other, how we live in the relationships that God has given us. Like Job, the teacher is skeptical about traditional answers given to life's hard questions. Realism and skepticism are an important part of the faith. It is good to ask questions. It is good to be skeptical when people throw out things that this is God's will or only good things happen to good people or faithful people when we know that's not true. Once people discover they cannot find meaning on their own, then they can leave such matters to God. and learn to find pleasure in the simple living of life. Again, trusting in God's presence and in God's love for us daily allows us to simply be in the moment rather than always rushing ahead to what's next or being overwhelmed with anxiety or fear or guilt. Luther understood the book to describe accurately the sin of always wanting more than we can have or need, of wanting to control everything, and finally of not trusting God. This is the emphasis here. The wise one at the end of life is discovering a life without trusting God, believing in God, being in relationship with God is vain, and it's meaningless, and it's empty. Vanity of vanities, says the teacher in our lesson. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. In Ecclesiastes, vanity is repeated 38 times. It means meaningless or emptiness. The Hebrew word for it, vapor or mist, suggesting something has little substance and disappears quickly. Our text, that I, the teacher, when king over Israel and Jerusalem, applied my mind to seek and to search out by wisdom all that's done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to human beings to be busy with. When you think it's all up to yourself, when you think that your life is all that matters, and God is nowhere to be found or nowhere to be a part of it, I saw all the deeds that are done under the sun and see all is vanity and chasing after the wind. Futility is a big word linked to vanity. 1:12-18 is the futility of seeking wisdom separate from God, apart from God. And then 2:1-11 talks about the futility of self-indulgence and the recognition that if you're going to just live your life for yourself, or you could include your family, where you're just so insulated and focused, apart from God, it's futile. Wisdom and joy are given to the one who pleases God. The teacher sees that death is the great equalizer between being wise and being a fool. He struggles with all the effort and energy devoted to being wise, only to suffer the same fate as the fool. That's why our Ash Wednesday service, where we get the imposition of the cross on our head with ashes, where we say, from dust we have come, to dust we shall return, reminding ourselves that we're mortal, reminding ourselves that every day we breathe, every day we exist is a gift we did not earn, we did not create for ourselves. Creates a spirit of humility and hopefully thanksgiving. Verses 18-19 of chapter 2, I hated all my toil, in which I had toiled under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to those who come after me. And who knows whether they will be wise or foolish, that they will be master of all for which I toiled and used my wisdom under the sun. This also is vanity. Boy, we see this in family-run businesses. When the second or third generation, most family-run businesses don't survive multi-generational handoffs. We know the struggle of the investment when a business has been prosperous, and those who've been a part of that family have enjoyed all the fruit and the riches of that prosperity. The work ethic may not be the same, the investment of time and energy may not be the same, and a sense of entitlement can creep in. And with each generation that can be challenged, and each generation can assume this is the way it's always going to be. And when you and I know that we're going to die and what we leave behind, we have no control over after we're dead, it can be a little terrifying for some. Chapter 2, 20-23. So I turned and gave my heart up to despair concerning all the toil, my labors under the sun. Because sometimes one who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave all to be enjoyed by another who did not toil for it. Oh boy, this hits us as we grow older. Everything I invested my life into, the things, I've listened to teachers who've done great jobs, but then the person coming after them destroyed everything that they can. I've seen pastors do tremendous jobs in congregations, and then another pastor comes in, and there all the fruit is and all the benefits are, and then the congregation is diminished. People leave. The congregation is never the same. What do mortals get from all the toil and strain which they toil under the sun? For all their days are full of pain, and their work is a vexation. Even at night their minds do not rest. This is also vanity. Again, there is more to life than just toiling through it, laboring through it, finding the moment to be able to just stop and enjoy and express our gratitude to God for simply being here today, right now. And the end here. There's nothing better for mortals than to eat and drink and find enjoyment in their toil. It's good to enjoy work. As many people say, you've never worked a day of work when you enjoy what you're doing. You're grateful for the opportunity to use your time, talents, and abilities in things that bring you satisfaction and meaning. This also I saw is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat or who can have enjoyment? For to the one who pleases him, God gives wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner he gives the work of gathering and heaping, only to give to the one who pleases God. This also is vanity and a chasing after the wind. So, if we learn anything, live today, find joy in today, but live in relationship with God, because God is the source of ultimate wisdom, and God will direct us in living our days with meaning and purpose. God bless. Take care.